Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys.
Do you know, I actually have no idea what episode we are.
It's episode 2,
it's only 2.
season 1. 2.
Neither do you.
There we go. Now we know how this episode is going to go from now.
Well, I am actually feeling, you know, when you're feeling a little bit fired up.
Yeah, but I feel we're not ready, are we?
No.
We don't know. I'm a bit jittery today.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I feel like bring the spice. What on earth was that?
What on earth? What spice are we talking about, Kate?
Maybe that's why I'm bringing a bit of red vibes today.
Oh, I see. I see why she's wearing a red crop top today.
I'm just feeling a little bit like you done row.
Right, okay. Well, we know how this is going to go then.
Back to today's episode, which, by the way, I think we decided today we're just going to have a random chat.
Yeah.
Because I feel like maybe that's what we need. We both need. The episodes need.
I don't know. I felt like I was too serious for the last 2 episodes. I need to just get myself together.
But they were quite heavy topics though.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of what we do, isn't it? We can bring kind of and discuss really serious topics that perhaps other people won't discuss because they don't want to go there or they don't know how to approach it.
Yeah.
But also we can bring some light-hearted general chit chat.
Yeah, talking about opinions and, you know, what we think about different things. We've read a couple of articles and we just want to just see what people think about them, you know, in our comments after you watch this episode. It'll be interesting to see how people approach situations like that and go from there, really.
I think one that stood out the most for me that I found was really interesting. We read an article on Women's Health magazine, didn't we? And it was all about the kind of this new rise in people tracking their partners or their friends or even their family's location. It wasn't just tracking location, was it? It was kind of this, well, show me where you are, let's FaceTime me, show me your surroundings, prove where you are, or location services being switched on, or, you know, you've read your WhatsApp message, but you've not messaged me back. I can see the blue ticks. Are they blue or are they green?
Blue.
Shows how much attention I pay.
I think they're blue. Are they blue? Or are they green? They're a colour.
Either or. The point is, it's this whole surveillance culture now where people have to know where you are and what you're up to every second of the day. And I guess I'd just like to bring this debate forward on whether that actually constitutes as a healthy relationship or not.
No, that's definitely not healthy. I'm sorry, but I mean, I can go on and on and on about this subject. I think that if you genuinely have to track someone 24/7, there's something wrong there. 100%. Like, you don't need to know that I've nipped into the corner shop or that I've just nipped into the gym or I've just nipped in to see my friend. And also, I think that half the times you don't have to let people know about all these little things in your day. Like that, it's not that you're hiding something, but I also think that that's your own privacy as well. Like, why do you feel the need that you have to let someone know where you are every minute of the day?
Yeah. No,
I think
totally
I think that's really unhealthy, and also that puts you a bit on edge in a way, because you just think, oh, I have to constantly check my phone, I have to constantly let them know where I am. I've been at the gym for longer than an hour and I need to let them know where that is sorry, but that is not healthy.
Yeah.
And whoever says that I just want to make sure that you're safe, that's just a cover story. Like, being safe when you may be walking from work at night, or maybe you're going somewhere far, I understand that. Maybe then having, you know, your location being tracked is a good reason for that. But when it becomes a habit where whoever's tracking you is constantly checking their phone every 5 minutes, I think that's a bigger problem there. That's not just because they want you to be safe.
I think we're going to ruffle a few feathers with this topic.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because I think there'll be people out there listening who are thinking, oh, well, I only do it for this reason, or I only do it for this particular amount of time, or it's for safety, like you say, or come up with an excuse. But I am in absolutely agreement with you. It's not healthy. There's no healthy relationship where you feel you have to know somebody else's whereabouts. There's a common courtesy, obviously, if you're in a relationship, to maybe like check in with your partner and say, you know, I'm going to be late home, or
Yeah.
I'm doing something after work, or I'm going out with friends. Don't wait up for me. I'm not sure what time I'm going to be in. But actually wanting to know somebody's location or checking, you know, their whereabouts is a form of coercive control, actually. And I think there's different levels of it too,
Yeah.
isn't there? So I feel as though now we're just in this society whereby this has become the norm. And the article actually talked about friends now, you know, knowing where their other friends are through location services.
Yeah.
But I feel like in a relationship, particularly, I don't know, something just doesn't sit right with me.
Well, I think even with friendship though, like why do I need to know where my best mate is?
Well, I think that's just weird, actually, isn't it?
I think that's actually on verge of just being creepy.
To be fair, though, we actually do know where each other is all of the time.
But that's because we communicate, not because we follow our phones.
There's the key.
That's the key. Yeah.
Principle, communication.
Yeah, like I'm not going to Kay like, oh, I'm just going to look on my phone, see where she is. I'll just send her a message if I want to know where she is. I don't have to track her the whole day to know where she is. And I think this is where it all is like a backlash, isn't it? Like communication. Why can you not communicate with someone to let them know where you are? Or if somebody's worried, genuinely worried about you, and they want to know where you are for your safety, then ring them.
Pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone. You don't have to track them. I don't know. That just makes me feel a bit uncomfortable because I'm just thinking of women and men. Bear in mind, we're not just talking about women here, men as well. Because I know a lot of women that are very controlling and like to track everything what their, you know, boyfriend, husband, whoever, male figure in their family. And I think that again is just a form of control, and it's really, really unhealthy because that person would never be able to feel comfortable because they know they're constantly being watched. And that also, I think, in my opinion, makes them rebel more because you're constantly trying to control somebody. They're only going to want to do it more. That literally, that all it comes down to, the more control you have with someone in your life, the more they're going to try and do what you don't want them to do. And it's just a boundary and a level of, again, communicating, have an honest chat with someone, and you know, you don't have to go to that extent. That's not healthy. And that this is where we're going at with this. It happens in relationships as well. I just think that it's so sad that we feel the need and are constantly on edge that we have to answer to where we are and what we're doing, instead of, like you said, just have an honest chat. Let them know I'm not going to be home after work. I'll just, like, for example, I could just be saying, I'll just nip and say to see Kay and chat with her and have a little, like, don't wait up for me. I'll have dinner after, or something like that. You don't have to make a big drama out of it, I don't think.
I think as well, as you was talking then, checking someone's phone is huge in this. It all comes down to this as well.
God.
I am so passionate about your phone is your private property, and that's not because you're hiding something, but you don't want to be kind of going in to someone's phone and reading all their business, because actually what's that saying? You're thinking that they're hiding something, so therefore you're not trusting them. And again, it just doesn't sit well for a healthy relationship, because the more that you're trying to coercively control somebody's life, whether that's by tracking their whereabouts or sneaking through their phone, or even not sneaking through the phone. I have actually known people to just say, well, give me your phone, let me have a look through it. And they'll trawl through messages with friends and things. And I just think that's overstepping the mark. And if you've got private conversations with friends, you don't want somebody else reading through those. It doesn't mean that you've got anything particular to hide from them. But I just think it's a private conversation. You know, you wouldn't, if you're having a private conversation, you wouldn't expect that to get aired. No more so than if you're having a private conversation with your friend. you wouldn't want them going back and repeating that conversation to their partner and discussing it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can pass this off as normal behaviour and say, oh, well, we look through each other's phones, or we share location as a family, so we all know where one another is. And I guess some people are okay with that, and maybe some relationships can function to a degree with that. But I don't know. I just think that lends itself more to codependency, where you're dependent on one another to function, which may be okay in the short term, but actually what happens longer term is what you tend to see is people losing sight of themselves, feeling like they don't know who they are anymore. And this could be years and years down the line, but that codependency can erode a relationship and can leave people feeling, you know, I want more. I don't know who I am anymore. You know, what is this life? What are my goals? What are my dreams? What are my aspirations? Because actually I've just been part of this couple, this unit for so long.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't think any of those behaviours are particularly healthy. And
No, I actually think it all always comes from somewhere deeper than just wanting to know where someone is.
of course it does.
I don't think that that is a normal behavior. I think it's only normal in some situations, like I mentioned before. I just think that that comes from somewhere inside of you where you're just not quite 100% and don't have some unresolved feelings about certain situations that you don't quite know how to react to them. So then your only, you know, action towards that is control and wanting to know everything. And you know, I get it, obviously, with the whole checking the phone, there's limit to it. I think, in all fairness, I wouldn't feel comfortable somebody going through my conversation with my best friend, only because, like you said, not because we want to hide anything. It's just because you might want to have a really private heart-to-heart conversation with your best friend that you potentially couldn't have with your partner. And bear in mind, this happens for your partner as well. They might want to have a really heart-to-heart conversation with their best friend, and you scrolling through that conversation is not okay. We have best friends for a reason, to be there for us, and certain things you can't talk to your partner like you would talk to your best friend. And I think that you draw in the line for me. I think going through conversations with your friends for me is a no-go.
But what do you think about social media though, as well? Like looking at someone's social media, because I just think no matter, and this might be again a contentious opinion, but if you're wanting to go through somebody's social media, the point is that you think they're actually doing something, or you're not trusting them. And you hit the nail on the head. The trust issue, whether that's a trust issue in your relationship because something's happened before, or you're suspicious of something, that issue still lies with you. You know, going through the phone or asking to see kind of conversations or asking to track locations still stems from a fear within you that, you know, maybe you're not quite good enough, or you've got this fear of abandonment that stems from our earlier experiences. And you're projecting that control onto other people in order to create that sense of safety in yourself. So you feel as though, I'm worried they're going to leave me, so I'm actually going to try and control them as much as I can, so I know that they're there and they're not going anywhere and they can't leave me if I contain them enough.
Yeah.
But, you know, you said it before, the more you try and control somebody, the more it makes people actually want to rebel. Well, the more it makes me want to rebel anyway.
Yeah, same
here.
here.
If you tell me not to do something, it makes me want to do it more. And that's just a personality trait that I have.
I mean, I've got a bit of a different approach recently. I just feel like rather than trying to control something and know everything, I'll just let them do what they would rather do. At the end of the day, the more you try and control, like you said, they're going to do regardless what they want to do. So you're not going to be able to change that whatsoever. So if they're going to want to go and I don't know, go off with someone, cheat, or whatever we're talking about here that you might be worrying about, let them do it. Let them. Literally let them. Because at the end of the day, you controlling that person, it's actually not going to let you know what they would rather do.
It's not in your best interest to stop them doing what they want to do, because the point here is, if they want to do it, as in cheat or wherever it is that you're worried that they're going to do, then they're not for you anyway. Why would you want to be with that person anyway?
Exactly. Yeah.
So trying to control the situation is actually just being counterproductive to yourself. And you're right. What you should be doing is actually focusing on you and thinking, well, you know, if you've not got the respect to actually let me know where you are, or let me know what you're doing, or maybe not go and do this particular thing because I find it disrespectful, then you have to have your own boundaries and actually put up with the fact that this person might not be for you because they're engaging in certain types of behaviours that are making you worried or unsure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that normally, like I said before, and I'm repeating myself, it all comes from somewhere. Some sort of past trauma, something that happened to you in the past that is making you behave this way. Like if somebody's had a really bad experience with partners in the past, that's only going to project on you as the current partner, unfortunately. Now, if you have a healthy relationship with your partner and you do have healthy communication skills with the partner, then you'll always be able to work through these things. Now, the problem here is when you can't communicate with your partner. I've been put in situations in the past where I have done all the communication that I possibly could, told them where I am, what I'm doing, to the point that it became a little bit chaotic because I was constantly on my phone while I was with my friends. And I just thought to myself, why am I doing this? Because this is, you know, I'm going above and beyond to let someone know where I am. For what though? What's the worry here? I'm just having a good time with my friends. I could never really pinpoint and understand where all this behavior was coming from because it was not reciprocated at all on the other side. So it was almost like, you have to let me know where you are, but I won't. So it was almost like a double standard, because we're going into the double standards in relationship, because I think it's a really big subject to point out, because double standard in a relationship, again, it's so unhealthy, because you as an individual are doing everything that you possibly can to make the other half comfortable, but you just don't get anything back. And then again, frustrations comes into play, arguments. Then you don't even feel like you want to communicate anymore, because you're just thinking, well, I've done all my communication with you and you're just taking me for granted.
Yeah.
So it's really hard with double standards. I feel like that is where I get really triggered, in all honesty, in relationships, because I just think that, and I'm not just talking romantically, I'm talking in any types of relationship that you have in your life. I just think double standards, it's so crucial that you know how to communicate with the other half and tell them how you feel. What's your expectations? What do you expect from that friendship, you know, or partnership? Because you can't go on forever with just being like, oh yeah, I'll go above and beyond, but I just feel like I'm just being left there, unseen, unheard, you know.
But that just breeds toxicity, doesn't it? It's that breeds resentment in that other partner or other friend who consistently feels as though they're giving and they're giving and they're giving and they're not getting anything back. And I think there's different elements of this. There's part of this that can be an element of coercive control, of actually, I'm going to tell you what you can and can't do. And there's rules around your behaviour, but they don't apply to me because I can still go and do what I want. Now, that type of behaviour is an example of coercive control. And where that stems from can be for lots of different things. So it can stem from, you know, a narcissistic personality. It can stem from a fear of abandonment. It can stem from, you know, the ego of someone feeling superior and feeling as though other people have to kind of align with what they say. And I think it just lends itself to a really toxic relationship or friendship that's not going to end well, because what happens is, it's exactly what I said before, that the person who's on the other side of it will only take so much, hopefully.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of them things actually that you see, sometimes it can last for a really, really long time before the other person either gets really, really worn down and really struggles with their mental health later on in life because they've been controlled and coerced that much. Or, you know, all of a sudden they just say, enough's enough, and actually I'm not taking this anymore. But it's a form of domestic abuse, and it's actually a really, I think, really awful form of domestic abuse because it often goes unseen.
Yeah. It's not seen as your normal physical domestic abuse. I think that, again, that's why it's so awful, because it's almost like undercover. You know, like, let me just not be abusive physically, but I will mentally abuse someone, which I think, like you said, is probably the lowest form of just trying to hurt someone and like control them. But I genuinely believe that throughout all of this, communication is the key. And I think that if you genuinely don't do something out of fear, then that's a problem, because you should never ever feel the need that you can't do something because you're fearful of that person or what they would say. This is where I believe that a lot of people don't understand how control works, because they just think that I'll just control as much as I can and they won't do it, like you said. No, because they're not doing it because they're fearful of you. They're not doing it because they don't want to do it. This is where people don't understand it. You don't want people not to do something because they're scared of you. You want them to genuinely not want to do it because their morals, because they would never do such thing, or because they're better than that. And you can put it in, apply it in different ways, but constantly being fearful of something, and this applies to children as well, because that's another thing which I want to touch upon, is, you know, when you're trying to discipline your children and trying to teach them what's good and what's right, or not good and things like that, you don't want to necessarily use fear and like that type of control where they're so petrified of you that they won't do it. You want them not to do out of respect for you, not because you don't know what your parents are going to do. And that's so heavy in different ways, but it's so true, because fear nowadays is applied to so many things, control, other aspects of our lives, that we just don't want to do stuff because we're scared.
I think as well, there's also the element of people pleasing. So people might not feel fearful of their partner, but they also might not want to rock the boat, or they might say, oh, but I just want an easy life. Oh, I'm just doing this for an easy life. Or I just want to keep them happy, you know, and they don't understand that actually that's still the element of, you know, control and feeling anxious, that if they don't do things in a certain way, there's going to be a repercussion. And again, I think that's the point here, isn't it? It's the, well, what's going to happen if I don't do this? Well, they might not outwardly be physically abusive. They might not even be verbally abusive.
Yeah.
But they might give me the cold shoulder for weeks on end.
Or sulk.
Or they might withhold finances in a particular way, or they might give you particular looks, or there's lots of different things. And I don't know. I just think a real healthy relationship is where two people are able to freely be themselves and want to be with each other, but also have their own interests, have their own hobbies, have their own friends, go on their own trips, but then come back together afterwards and still want to be with each other. And that's where you get kind of that true communication, that true appreciation, true mutual respect, because actually you've both got your separate lives, but you both still want to be together. There's no element of, but if you do this, but if you do that, oh, you can't do this, but I can do that.
I just think it's really important to watch the patterns in your relationship because, for example, if you go to your partner and you genuinely have something that's really upset you or something on your mind and you're trying to start a conversation with them and it ends up in an argument all the time, that leads to more like trauma in the future. I genuinely don't think that that is a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship is generally only when you go to your partner and say, this is how I'm feeling, this is on my mind. And they just genuinely sit there and look at you and be like, let's sit down and resolve this, rather than make this thing in an argument. Because, okay, there's different ways of approaching a situation. I'm aware of that, because going to your partner that is easily triggered and say, you made me feel like this, they only hear hit them. They're not hearing anything else. Yeah. It's an attack for them. What you could be doing is saying, this made me feel like this. I feel this way. Not you made me feel this way. I think there's different ways of approaching a situation. If you know that you're dealing with someone that is quite snappy or doesn't quite know how to react to situations like this, you can still communicate in different manners. I think communication, again, can be harder for other people in different types of relationship, but it can always be approached in different ways, in a more, like you said, not aggressive, like they're thinking it's you rather than what made me feel.
But I also feel as though you get to a point in your life where you may have come on a journey, and I think there'll be a lot of people out there that have reached this point where, when we talk about going on a journey, it's about self-reflection, it's about self-awareness, it's finding your authentic self. So thinking about, okay, well, what are my values that I want to live by? What's the type of person I want to be? And it all starts with being observant. So you observe your own behaviours, your own reactions, and then you start to observe others. And it's about creating that space between the trigger and your response. Now, if you're consistently up against somebody who hasn't done that work and you have, that can be a really difficult environment, because what you find then is you're constantly observing how they're reacting and responding to situations that are coming from a place of their own defensiveness. So for whatever it may be that's triggering them off in that moment in time, they can't see it and they're reacting from a place of emotion consistently, and that can be really frustrating for somebody, and it eventually breeds again that toxic cycle.
Do you know what? I want to touch upon something, because that's another thing which I've been struggling with for the last couple of years. As you know, like, again, the approach, we were speaking about the approach before, how you approach someone. When somebody approaches you in such an aggressive manner, it's really hard for you to keep your cool. So what I mean by that, I'm not meaning that you need to start screaming, but if you act defensive, that person goes, well, that must be something wrong, because why are you acting defensive? And I just think half the times I'm just thinking, I'm not acting defensive. I'm reacting to you, how you have approached me.
But also, I'm defending myself because I feel attacked right now.
Yeah, so it's almost like, it's not that you're hiding something. It's the way you've approached that person. How do you expect that person to be like, oh, yeah, yes, darling. Yeah, you just, no, I can't sit here. Yeah, I can't sit here and just be like so calm when you have approached me aggressively and expect me to just sit there and just take it all. There's a limit to everything. You will explode one way or the other. And that's why I keep mentioning communication, the way you approach. Look at your partner, see their bad traits, see their good traits. You know how your partner would react, and this, especially if you've been with them for a very long time, you will know exactly what buttons to press.
But you know what, though? I think that's a big factor, because that's where problems seep in when people have been together for a long time and one person does the inner work and the other person doesn't. Where do you go with that? Because again, you can say, oh, but you've changed. And actually people do change. You change as you grow older, you change through your experiences, but you should change as you grow and you see more of the world and you start to challenge some of those biases that you may have had from a younger age. You start to interact with more diversity and enriched experiences. Change is growth, but not for everyone, because not everybody goes through that growth. What do you do if you then are in that situation where one person has gone through that growth and the other one's still stuck and they're at the same old patterns and behaviours and reactions and responses? Because you can sit with, oh, well, I know the triggers and I know the bad traits for a period of time. But at some point, there becomes the question, well, how long am I actually going to sit with this and put up with this? Because the ownership has to be on that person to also notice their responses and their behaviours and change for the better.
I think that's a personal choice, because it's only you that knows how long you're going to last in that type of situation. And regardless what the situation is, I just think that you have to sit down and ask yourself, am I okay with sticking with this and just carry on, or am I not? I think again, honesty, having that communicate with yourself in a way of saying, well, this is how I'm feeling. I don't mind showing them this part of me and see where it goes. But there's also a point to where you just go, this is not changing at all. There's no acknowledgement on the other side. Like you said, we all change. I believe, obviously, we're not saying change completely. We all change traits of ourselves in life. Yeah. But I also think that with change as well, there's also sometimes that you're going to still get triggered and you're still going to have those outbursts. But I think the less you have those outbursts, the more you know that you're on the right path. So we're not saying that if you now decided that you need to change this aspect of your life, you're not going to have a reaction or be triggered, because that it would just be unfair. You know, even to this day, when I was a little bit younger, I was a bit more fiery and I was a bit like, oh yeah, you want to argue? Well, let's argue. Come on then. And I'd be like, come on then, let's argue for 2 hours. Let's get it all out. Why not? And I realized that approach in my relationship at the time did not benefit me whatsoever, because I was arguing with a person that was just as bad as me. So we were just going back and forth constantly. And I just took a different approach in my life where I just thought, okay, I'm aware that I'm still going to have these outbursts now and then, and that's fine as long as I am acknowledging it.
Well, no one's perfect, are they?
Exactly.
Although people try and believe they are.
Oh God, I
told you I was
who's that person that thinks they're perfect? Can you please comment in the comments, because I'd like to see, because nobody is. Like, I'm not.
And no relationship is perfect either.
No, again, see, this thing with perfection in relationships, I honestly, guys, just cut the crap. Like, come on. Like, nobody's got a perfect relationship. Nobody's got perfect children. Nobody's got perfect, I don't know, family relationship. There's always going to be something there. And going around saying that my partnership is perfect and my this is, we know it's not. And I think that just puts pressure on other people for them to feel like, oh God, well, their relationship is perfect and mine is not. And then it puts doubts on other people. Mm-hmm. Listen, your arguments might be different than other couples. They might be arguing about different things than you guys are arguing. That doesn't mean that your relationship is perfect. It just means that they've got different problems than you. They still have problems. It's just on a different level.
And I think as well, it's how you work through those problems, isn't it? And like you said before, everybody's kind of limits are personal and individual, and somebody's kind of absolute no, I've had enough might be somebody else's, well, actually I can work through this and I'm willing to stick at it and try. But I think for the purposes of this episode, obviously we've spoken a lot about control and behaviour, and thinking, there may be some people out there who are listening thinking, actually I do feel quite fearful of my partner's behaviour, or I am in a friendship where it is one-sided and it's dictated a lot by what the other person wants. My needs are going overlooked here. Or, you know, I am constantly having to prove where I am or what I'm doing, or there might be rules to what I can and can't do, or where I can and can't go. And I think, what can we say to those people out there who are thinking, well, what do I do now?
I've got a simple saying, guys. If you can't be yourself, then you can't be around them, unfortunately. And I know it's hard, and I know it's one of them things that it's really hard for somebody to admit. But if you genuinely can't be yourself, your true self, your authentic self around people, they're not for you. I'm sorry. They're just not. And this comes to friendships. This comes to partnerships. If I can't be, I'll give you an example, my quirky self with somebody. I am quite a quirky person. I like having fun. I like, you know, being giddy. I know I sometimes I've got a really dirty mind. But
Did you just say that?
Yeah, but you know what I mean, though? It's like, if you can't take that, if you can't take that, and I can't be like that around you, then I'm obviously not going to be my true self with you. If I'm covering that, this is for everyone that knows me, if I'm covering that aspect of myself with anyone around me, that is not my true self with you. And that means I don't feel comfortable with you. I want to just be able to wake up in the morning and say what I feel like saying, present myself like I want to present myself, not constantly just be on edge. Oh my God, I can't do this. That's not life. I'm sorry. But if you constantly have to live your life like that, you're always going to be on alert. And that, again, is not good for your nervous system either. That's horrendous.
So well, it is.
It's horrendous for your nervous system because you're constantly on edge. You don't know what happens tomorrow, the next minute. And it's an awful way of living, I think, personally.
And I think not a lot of people might be or might think that they're on high alert, because actually high alert can present in different ways to different people. So being kind of in our kind of state of fight or flight, actually there's something called freeze as well, where we really go into what we call a dorsal vagal sense of, you're feeling numb, you're feeling dissociated, you're feeling really tired, you've got no energy. And that actually is the same aspect of what we're talking about. It's not just that actually your response is constantly feeling anxious or feeling super high alert. It can actually go the other way as well, which is when we start thinking about, you know, low mood, kind of apathy or depression kicks in. Because you can't be your authentic self. You're not living true to actually what you want to say or how you want to be. You're constantly feeling restricted by another person, or feeling as though you've got to conform in a certain way or be something you're not. And it's putting on that mask day in, day out, which is what will eventually erode your mental health. Whether it takes 6 months, 6 years, or 60 years in, you know, some really, really sad cases where people actually spend their whole lives conforming to a relationship where they're not their true selves.
Can you imagine how sad that is?
Yeah.
I don't want to just, like, you know, make people feel bad or anything, but that is really sad. If you genuinely can't be yourself, I mean, why do we go through this life? You know, like, you need to feel your authentic self. You have to. That's how you thrive in life. And I think that I have been in situations like you've mentioned where I just literally froze. I had a couple of years in my life where I just literally couldn't feel anything, couldn't
just feel numb.
And the only way I can describe it, like you said, is numbness. And it's a really hard way of describing that numbness, because you'll only know when it's happening to you, because I can't sit here and describe how it feels. But
it feels like you can't feel.
Yeah, you just cannot feel.
You've got no kind of interest in anything. It's kind of like, well, I know I should be feeling triggered or sad or angry right now, but actually, meh.
Yeah,
It's
like, or
like
like
that,
I
meh.
can't be bothered. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just so over this crap that I literally cannot be bothered about whatever's happening around me. Everything can be blowing up
Yeah.
around me, and I'm just gonna be sitting there in my numbness and just try and
And
deal with it.
and some people actually think that that is a good way to be because, oh, I'm not bothered, I'm fine with it. This also taps into these behaviors that we're talking about. If a partner is behaving in a certain way, whether that's they're going out all the time, they're engaging in things that you don't like, they're coming home at like certain hours of the morning, or they're not coming home at all, and you're just like, oh well, actually, I'm not really bothered, and it
Yeah.
doesn't really trigger me in that
The
way.
alarm is ringing.
Yeah.
The police
Ring the alarm.
ring the alarm.
That's my alarm going with them behaviours.
As soon as she mentions behaviours, the alarm is going off outside.
But actually, again, it's a defense mechanism.
Yeah, it is.
Where you're dumbing down your feelings, you're pushing them away, you're hiding them that far inside you that actually you're not feeling anything at all, and that is just as unhealthy as being really reactiveful and triggering. So I think if you are feeling those ways, it's really important, like you said, to really analyze what you want from your life and start to think about taking steps to actually living, by your authentic means. What do I want out of my life? Where am I going? Where do I see myself in a year's time, 5 years time? What are my goals? What are my aspirations? Outside of whatever this is that I'm in, who am I as a person?
Yeah, I know. I agree with that. Again, that is like we keep saying, living by your authentic self. You have to have a level of understanding of yourself first before you start putting boundaries out there. Like, you could be putting boundaries with people, but you also need to know where is that coming from? Is that you putting boundaries because you have to put boundaries, or you putting boundaries because you want to put boundaries? Because again, I know a lot of people that will just put boundaries for the sake of it because they're just not quite ready to deal with themselves yet.
Oh, emotionally unavailable people.
They just put boundaries there and put literally another step, and you just think, hang on a minute. Where are all these boundaries coming from? Are you putting those boundaries because you're just fearful of actually looking inwards? Or you're just putting them, like, what are you doing? Like, you also have to look inside of you and say, why do I have to put so many boundaries up? That is actually a warning sign for you as a person to know that if you've got so many boundaries, where are they coming from? What is that underlying issue? Where are they all coming from?
There's two aspects of this, isn't there, here, actually? Because I guess what we're talking about, because there could be people listening that are thinking, oh, shit, they're describing me there. I do that. Yeah, I do this.
Oh my God, the amount of times I listen to something, I'm like, oh, here we go. There's me.
But do you know what? We could speak all day. We could have a whole nother episode on whether you are this person who's being controlling and putting boundaries in place, or being, emotionally unavailable, or you could be this other person who's on the receiving end of it. I guess there's two elements of it, but the main, I guess, message is just do what feels right for you. And look inwards at how you're responding to situations and think, would I actually like it if this was switched around on me?
See, that is the best question you can ask yourself. Honestly, guys, if you ever want to know an answer, would you want that person to do the exact same to you that you're doing to them? That's as simple as that. Because that can turn a lot of people will be like, oh, no chance I'd let that happen. Well, why are you doing it to someone else?
Or I think as well, and this is quite stereotypical, but I'm just using it as an example. For men in particular, would you want someone to treat your daughter the way that you're treating your partner? What would you say if a man was actually saying to your daughter, no, you can't go out there, no, you can't do this.
Yeah.
You've got to be in at this time. Show me where you are. Show me your phone. Let me go through your text messages. Switch your location services on. be home in the
Don't wear
house at
that.
this time. Yeah, don't wear that. And I just think, well, maybe some men will go, yeah, well, yeah. But that's a whole nother scenario.
Scenario, yeah. No, I actually don't. I just think that that applies to anything. Like you said, you've given a great example there. It's how would you want to be treated? Like you just need to just flip that narrative and just be okay. I know I'm triggered. I know I'm being this. I'm trying to better myself. If I do this now, and it might be like an intrusive thought for the moment that you just don't know how to handle it. You just have to just flip it for a second and just be like, if I do this to this person, but they did it back to me, would I be triggered? Would I be upset? Would I have all these reactions? If that's a yes, then you should maybe not do that thing and maybe sit down and reevaluate what's going on. Like you said, would you let, somebody else treat your daughter like that? And it's the other way around. It's the same with boys as well. Would you want somebody to control your son the way maybe you're controlling your husband? Or would you there's so many things that you just think you have to flip the narrative sometimes and ask yourself that really hard question, because that's the only way we're going to grow.
Yeah, I heard a quote the other day that I really, really liked. And it was saying, they were discussing, oh, you only get one life, make sure you live it. And I can't remember who the person was, but they actually said, no, that's not true. Actually, you get a go at life every single day. You only get one death, and that's for certain.
That's inevitable.
But actually, you get to choose your life every single day. So how are you choosing to live it?
Yeah, that is very true, because if you think about it, we're all gonna die in the end. So, that we know that's gonna happen. We're not gonna live forever. But at the same time, like you said, getting up every single day and choosing to be a better person, choosing not to control that other person, or choosing not to have reactions like that. You're only making your life better every day by choosing to not do all these things.
Because what's going to happen is the other person is then going to choose to be with you because they want to be with you, not because of the way your behavior was making them be with you.
I know, and it's I know this is kind of a difficult subject for for majority of people, but we felt like we needed to bring it up because I think there's so much talk and noise about all these subjects that we've spoken about today that I just want everyone to feel like they're heard in whatever situation they're in. Nobody has a perfect life. And I think we need to realize that a little bit more. I still know that we have days where we just think, oh, I wish my life was like this or like this other person's. It's normal to feel like that now and then. I just think that what you have to realize that a lot of people are not willing to speak what they feel. They're not willing to, half the times, to show their authentic self. And that's when you need to realize that actually I just need to mind my own business, look at my life and what I can do with my life to improve it for the future and for my children and for my family, friends, everyone that will benefit from it around me.
It is, and it's how you want to kind of live your life, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
It's what makes you happy and what you feel you can bring to relationships as well, because we've said it in a couple of our other episodes, you can never control or change other people. You can only focus on how you show up every day, how you respond to situations, and how you react in kind of certain ways. So actually you can't have an influence on somebody else, no matter how long you've been with them, whether it's a new relationship or whether it's a longer term relationship. You just have to show up as your authentic self and hope that the relationship or friendship will flourish because of a genuine connection.
Yeah, and learn how to communicate. I think it might be hard at the beginning. You might not want to speak your thoughts, your feelings. We understand it's really actually quite you put yourself in a vulnerable place when you start speaking about how you're feeling, and we understand that a lot of people are very uncomfortable with being vulnerable, and I totally understand, because that does come from past experiences and whatever you've been going through as an individual. But I just think communication, taking different approaches. Listen, we all have been young and immature, and we've all had maybe interactions with people where we look back now and we could have communicated better. But I just think as long as you're aware of that and you're trying to change that for the future in how you communicate with people and approach situations, is actually the best you can do for yourself.
We learn from your mistakes, because nobody's perfect. And as long as you always are willing to accept and acknowledge when you're wrong and want to do better and want to try, then that's all you can ask from somebody.
Yeah.
And from yourself.
I know. I mean,
be kind to yourselves.
I feel like we need to stop this one now, because it's got a bit like a bit heavy and a little bit for me anyway, because I was just listening to you, just thinking, oh, all of my little past triggers have just been popping off like ding, 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 ding. Even the bloody alarm was going off at one point. But honestly, guys, thank you so much for joining in again, and thanks for listening. And you know what to do. You need to subscribe and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. I'm trying my best, because usually you do this bit, but I don't think I'm doing it as good. You try and do as well. See which one does it better.
Okay.
Okay.
Hang on. I feel like you've just put me on the spot. I need to compose myself now. Okay, everyone, if you could please like, subscribe, and share our content. It actually works really well.
Who do you think has done it better, guys? Please let us know.
Definitely not me. What the hell was that? What works really well?
What works really well? Yeah, it works really well, guys. Make sure you do it, because it works well.
Oh, I don't know what is wrong with me today. Honestly, it's one of those days.
We just need to go and have another coffee. I think after you finish, we finish this.
Too many coffees. That's why.
No, I had my first one. I've just when I arrived at yours, so I think I need another one under my in my bloodstreams. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.